Hey there, my name's Taylor, and I'm a synthesis teacher at Pyramind in San Francisco. And today we're going to be just taking a little look at Metaphysical Function, a soundscape generator in Reaktor. It's one of the legacy instruments in there. And we're just going to take a little look, see how it works, check out all the little parts. This thing is great. I use it all the time. It's somewhat older, but it still sounds amazing, and it has a lot of flexibility. One thing about it, though, is it's kind of atonal. So what I do with it a lot is resample out of it and then tune it after I get it out of Metaphysical Function. All right, so double click on Reaktor, loads up onto this MIDI track. I was using it last time I opened up Reaktor, so it remembered my file hierarchy. But if you're just loading up Reaktor and you haven't touched it in a little while, it might load up from the player level over here. So you got all these guys. Then you want to just go into the factory tab. So see this little factory folder. Instead of going to instruments, you want to go to ensembles and then go to Electronic Instruments Volume 2. And then in there, just click on that folder. Gives you a bunch of instruments down here in this little section. You got Metaphysical Function A and B. And so what's different between these two is there's different samples and different presets. Because as you'll see in a minute, this is a tone generator, so it has a bunch of waveforms that it's just spitting out, and then on top of it, it has a sample player as well. So you can mix the timbres of a bunch of sine waves and a sample playing back and droning out. So I think that's really cool. All right, so double click, it loads up. This is what Metaphysical Function looks like. So I'm not playing anything, I'm not holding down any notes. This instrument's hardwired to have its own clock sync, and it just starts up whenever you load it in there. Okay, so let's check out what's going on here. First things first, mute button's down here. If you don't want to hear it, you can turn it off like that. You have a fancy little XY that is really mesmerizing, especially if you're doing sound design on this. I like to just get lost in that for a little bit. So you have all your presets over here, or snapshots. Got a bunch of different sounds in here, and then a couple initialized patches as well. So let's just unmute this guy. So you can hear a couple things happening. Just some latent tones coming in, and then also some little clicks coming in as well. And so those drony tones coming in are the waveform generators on the left and right. You have two sections of waveforms, A and B, each with their own filter. It's a low pass filter. Has a resonance knob as well. Has a slave function, so you can slave the cutoff to the main filter, which is this guy right here. This is one of those instruments that you just put on in the background when you're having guests over, and then just creep them all out. All right, so let's take these guys down for a second. Let's check out this sample that's going through here. So we have a little sample area right here. We have amplitude for that sample. So pull that all the way down. And now I don't hear anything besides the latent tones being pushed out of this guy. You have a pitch for that sample. And this is not resynthesizing the sound, so it's actually going to speed up and slow down whenever you pitch it up or down. So pitching it up will speed it up, and slowing it down will be when you pitch it down. Then you can also change the start and end of your loop by moving this guy over here. So now I've really pitched it down and it's spitting out some weird tones. If I want to make it tumble over itself, I can pitch it up and down. And see, these are all little movements you'd want to do while you'd be resampling this guy. So you route the output of this track into another audio track and you just start recording and start moving knobs and moving parameters and just really making it sound more expansive and evolving. That's the whole point. So let's try loading up initialized. So from the get-go, it spits out like a B. So you have that tone just going on in the background right now. That's one of these sine waves that's built into this waveform generator here. So you can hear that it's always spitting out this tone. If you want it to be tuned to middle C, 60 will be the way to go. And if you notice in this XY, whenever you put it to middle C, it creates a perfect circle, which is pretty cool. Alright, want to turn that down a little bit so it's not too annoying at the moment. Maybe turn this guy off all the way. And let's get this sample generator going. So turn out the amplitude. And in order to get it to move, you have to pick a direction speed. So this is a drum sample. Then you can change your sample.
A cloud Apollo was flying leisurely in the sunshine.
Everywhere in the world, find no.
Compete with
And of course you can run that into a filter here. Maybe even run it through some drive. Let's turn up the mix, turn up the drive. So this can get cool. Then after all that, you have a spin generator. Let's turn down the amplitude of that a little bit. So what the spin does is actually delays out the sound and spins it around your head. So T1 is for your left channel, T2 is for your right channel. And up and down over here will be the time of that delay. And it's kind of like a tape delay, so whenever you move it up and down, it will pitch around. Then you can fine tune that sample as well. Turn up the feedback.
It's not immediately apparent. Transformed. This grasshopper is a victim. A clouded Apollo is flying leisurely.
So it gets really weird.
Everywhere in the world,
So let's check out the reso chord. So what this does is it combs through your sound and creates nice resonant chords out of your sound. It's like a very finely tuned comb filter. If I was to compare it to anything, it would be the resonator right here, where you can just assign a note and then pitch it around. Have a bunch of different notes that simultaneously play. That's just to show a general representation. But the reso chord has those different chords built into here. Open up this little list here. You have a bunch of really weird looking Italian words. You can try all those out and see how those timbres really match up there. And like with most comb filters, it has feedback amounts. In order to get to really comb, you have to turn up this little feedback right here.
Everywhere in the world, fight and compete with the rivals. It's not immediately transformed.
Then you can pitch around the entire chord itself. And this is really nice. It gives you kind of a waterphone type texture. I really like the reso chord. And you can also pitch modulate it. So you have this little list down here. Let's click on that, assign it to P1. So yeah, this is your pitch modulator here. So this will allow you to change the pitch of your reso chord. And if you want, you can have it also attenuate your waveform generators. But you have to turn this on here. So say I had this guy going. Maybe not so loud there. I have the pitch turned on. So that's a good way to get your drone tone to kind of have a chord. One specific thing you have to note is that when you click fine, it will attenuate the fine tuning of those drone sounds. So you have your semitones right here, middle C is 60, and then you have fine tune amounts here from hundredths values in 1. So that means that each decimal or 0.01 would be 1 cent. Alright, so now I can pitch my reso chord and my tone generators around with the same source. Then if I want, I can also assign that to my sample as well. So that's really cool. I find that comes in handy a lot. So you have the choice to turn on all of them. So just hit all and it'll snap on all these pitch modulation sources. And line 1 means for P1 and P2 is line 2 right here. So P2 from default is going to be controlling the fine tuning of all these tone generators. All right. And another function here is I can control this pitch with MIDI. And so this is where your actual keyboard can be used. So I have, let me just move this guy out of the way. I have my computer keyboard turned on right now. sometimes when I'm generating sounds with this, I'll, have my session open, have like a bunch of strings or something, or just another texture I want to layer. And I'll just put the MIDI onto this guy and have it pitch around a little bit, and just kind of match the melody of my sound, and that can give cool results. Another reason why I still like to take it out of Metaphysical Function is that you still have all this stuff that's moving in the background, that sample that's playing over and over. Sometimes I want that committed, and I just want to not have it generating these random sounds. It's really cool when I'm resampling, I can get a lot of textures, but I want to record that and then get it locked down. It's kind of a thought I take with a lot of Reaktor instruments. Like a lot of the sample transformers and all those things, I want to get those out of the instrument as quickly as possible so I can start manipulating the audio and be able to have a little bit more control over it. Metaphysical Function doesn't take up too much CPU, but I still like to have a little more level of commitment. Alright, so turn up the drive a little bit more. So I can pitch around my reso chord and my sample and my tone generators at the same time. I can also add in different waveforms into here. Alright, so the last piece of this chain is the reverb. And I really like this reverb. It's kind of like the stock reverb that comes built into here, the Space Master Deluxe, and they just kind of wired it so it only goes through big, expansive spaces. So you have big, bigger, endless, standard, small, and smaller. Very straightforward. And then you can have the order of this reverb. So pre goes reverb into reso chord, post goes reso chord into reverb. So, I mean, that's a really great thought. Like, I'm really glad they did that. Because something I do a lot is have a resonator and then put a reverb before or after it. And so that's kind of the same concept there. It creates a very nice texture. I really love to comb out reverbs and all that stuff, so that really kind of caters to me. Alright. So that pretty much covers all the pieces here. One big thing about Metaphysical Function is the automation capabilities here. So you can actually automate from within Metaphysical Function to create movement by clicking these little boxes below the amount here. So I can actually, if I wanted this tone to come in very gradually, I can enable the automation, and then now it's just going to jump on and maybe jump off. So I can actually record some automation into here by clicking this little box, start moving the parameter up and down, and then I click the box again to finalize that automation. So now I have this parameter moving up and down, which I think is pretty awesome. You can do that with most of these parameters in here. So you can just move all these parameters and it's just generating, and it becomes this living entity. And after a while, you'll just become mesmerized by this XY over here. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how I comb through some of this stuff and create textures. To sum up this piece of this little mini series, I'm just going to resample what I've created here. So I Command T in Ableton. I go to resampling. What this does is it takes the output of your master, routes it into the input of this audio track. Name this drone. Hit record and start recording. And see, now I'm recording all these drone sounds, and I can start moving around some parameters and giving it a little bit more life, like maybe pitch it up. But just for a little. I have everything synced into this MIDI. I don't need to have it synced to MIDI. I can take it off. Repitch everything at the same time. Pitch everything down. Just creating this texture now. This really expansive texture. This really low resonating drone. Everything's being very cleanly combed by this reso chord here. And everything's pitched down, and it's all just resonating nice. It's almost like a massage for your brain. I can bring in these tone generators here, open up the cutoff. Then I can also speed up all the automation. And even switch around my sample. So I'm creating all this movement. And so I've been recording this guy for a little while now. And I can start changing around some parameters. And even if I wanted to now, I can go in and I can play this drone back again, since I have this parameter automation arm. Whenever I start recording, all my movements on Reaktor here were recorded as well. So that concludes the intro into Metaphysical Function. In the next video, we're gonna load this stuff up into samplers, and we're gonna just use some audio and comb through it with some corpus. And these are all things that if you're an Ableton user, this will be very, very easy for you to do. Thank you.
very much like to thank Pyramind for hosting me here once again. I think this institution is really cool, and until I came here for the first time, I had never seen anything like it in my whole life.
What I think really separates us from other people who teach is that we are outrageously passionate about what we do, and especially in electronic music.
Since coming to Pyramind, I've discovered electronic music, and San Francisco being a mecca for underground electronic music opened up so many doors for me and kind of blew my mind.
We cover everything from absinthe to contact. When people get to the mind-melting level, we get into modular synthesis.
Everything about native instruments, everything about Logic synths down to the finest detail. We learned it all.
The fundamentals of understanding how things work, that's just essential. But then beyond that, there's so much more, and that's where it gets into just a lot of the artistic side of like the creative approach of why you do something, not just how.
There's a lot of schools that just, they focus on the technicality of recording music, but I wanted something that would foster creativity and really help me develop as an artist as well.
Each of our genre-specific programs comes in 4 levels. There's a basic, an advanced, a professional, and then a master's level. And the master's level is, of course, everything we do. It's the largest and most powerful programs that we can create for you.